How about the Saints now? Now the Saints this year, they are in what you would call a salary cap situation, in that they are very much over the cap. And I'm actually going to check that out. But I also want to kind of talk about they have 3 draft picks in the entire NFL draft coming up. Not great. Not great when you're considering a team that is probably going to need another quarterback, is probably going to want cut a couple of people. I believe they've got Drew Brees' cap hit will be pretty substantial moving forward. But I think that they are definitely going to be making some big offseason moves and making some changes. However, I think that they definitely, with whatever their cap situation ends up being, and the fact they don't have a lot of draft picks, there's still some really quality players that we have to look at on the Saints. We do it for everybody, and it was a little hard for the Saints because they do draft well, but it's just a little tougher considering how much how they seem to have a lot of younger, or middle of their career players. Who from the Saints really impresses you?
There's not a whole lot of guys that are, I guess, young that impress me because they don't have a lot of guys that are in their first or second year who are very good yet. Besides the center that they just drafted this last year, he was pretty solid. But I wouldn't really consider him a standout player, even though he played pretty solid. So I'm just going to go with, I'm excited to see what they do at the quarterback situation. If they end up playing Jameis Winston, making him the starter for next year, I'm really excited to see how good he can be, because he's a quarterback I feel like has so much upside. His ceiling is so high. I think his ceiling is higher than Drew's ever was because of his athleticism, but it's his brain that needs developing. But if Sean Payton, if he can turn that around and make Jameis a respectable quarterback, I feel like the Saints could be more dangerous next year than they've been in recent years. Just if they can keep all the other pieces they had and insert Jameis Winston and him playing better, that could be a really good team. Drew Brees, I think, is retired now. He hasn't officially retired, but it's kind of, I guess, the general consensus is that he's retired. Probably
forthcoming.
Yeah, it's probably coming up here, but he's probably retired. If he does come back, it'll be his last year, probably. But I think he's done. He was caught on the sideline during that playoff game talking to Jameis and saying, "This is your team now." So if that goes to say anything, he's probably retiring.
Yeah.
But I've never liked Jameis Winston as a person or as a player because of his decision-making on and off the field is very poor. But if he can get his head on straight, this is an elite talent. The Saints could be pretty dangerous next year. So I'm excited to see that all play out. Taysom Hill is not going to be their quarterback. I don't like that they only used him as a gadget player. I wish they would have actually used him in the quarterback position full-time more.
Yep.
But he'll end up going somewhere else, so he'll stay there as a gadget tool. He's not going to be the quarterback. But the draft coming up, that's rough. Only having 3 picks. And this last year, they only had 4 picks, I think. It's tough. I don't know what the cap situation is, but I've always told everybody I think cap is a joke. I think we saw what Kansas City did last year. They reported that they had $19 in cap space. $19 in cap space shortly after signed Patrick Mahomes to a $500 million contract. And then a week later, or not a week later, but shortly after, made Travis Kelce the highest paid tight end in NFL history. It's I think just cap space is a number they have to report. I think they can afford to pay whatever they want. The NFL teams are rich enough to pay whoever they want, whatever they want. It's just about finding a way to pay them that money, whether it's a lot of bonuses, because I don't think bonuses count towards cap. Random incentives, playing incentives don't count towards cap. There's a lot of things that you can really manipulate the cap space. So if teams are smart enough, like the Chiefs were, to figure out a way around that and really back half and bonus load players' contract, you can build a really good team for a really long time. But that's eventually they'll have some issues with it. But I don't think cap is a big deal. I think people make too big of a deal of the cap. Just because players say or teams say that they don't have any cap space, I think it generally just means they don't want to sign a player. Because if you really want to sign a player, I think you can. I don't think it's very hard.
Yeah.
If the Packers wanted, they could probably extend Aaron Rodgers for 2 more years and $500 million. But they probably won't because the people in the front office don't really have much of a grip on what they're doing. But cap's a joke. But the Saints, I don't know. It could either be, I feel like it's a roller coaster. It could either be they could go straight up next year or they could just go straight down next year without Drew Brees. I'm excited to see what happens with them next year.